In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a posterior 3-unit bridge. And under this first administration tab, we're going to look at the restoration type. Instead of doing a crown, we're going to go to bridge and select crown. And connector type, we're going to do intersection for now, and biogeneric individual. You can double check your material and the device that it's going to. And then I'm going to be doing retainer crown for tooth number 28 and for tooth number 30. And then we're going to go over here to select a pontic for tooth number 29. And then just double checking things on the case details on this side of the screen. We have a bridge 28 to 30, and we're happy with the material we picked. And then crown, pontic, crown. Before moving forward, we're going to go down to this button here called articulation, and we're going to select it. And don't select the second one, but what you want to see is that it was added to your case details here. And then we can click next. This is going to take us to the model. In the model, it will automatically take you to the draw margin tab, and instead of going straight to drawing the margin, because it'll push you forward to the design, we're going to go back to a couple steps here. We're going to go to edit model. Although it's giving you a green check mark, we just want to double check a couple things here. This is where you can trim out any gum tissue that may have gotten in the way. This was on a model, so nothing really needs to be trimmed, but just to show you, you can use the cut tool and here trim away something that may be in the way, and sometimes it will affect the proposal. You can also check the opposing arch and make sure it doesn't have any tissue that's in the way also. Doing a bridge means there's a missing tooth, and sometimes the space for that is not ideal for the shape of the pontic. And so in the tools here, one of them is called replace, and it's a lot like drawing your margin, but we're going to draw around the extraction site. This doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to change some of the pontic shape later with a different tool, but we'll hit apply. And this gives you something a little bit cleaner to work with. Now that we've got this here, we can also go to the form tools, and these are the same as when you're designing a crown, and you can just form or adjust the model itself. Sometimes I'll go in with the remove tool and just remove a little bit more in the area here so that the pontic goes into the gum tissue, and we can form a nice cleansable shape, but that also keeps out some food. You can use the remove tool. You can also use the smooth tool, kind of going around if we need to. Good. After that, we can go to this set model axis, and this one looks like it's placed it in the right spot, but sometimes it won't be. It'll be rotated like this. Because we're working with the posterior, we're really looking at these blue circles here, and we want to make sure that where the teeth that are prepped are kind of in a spot that the computer can recognize. So we'll save that. Don't use the trim area tab, and then go ahead and go to drawing the margin. Drawing margin, it's asking for tooth number 28 first, so we will go ahead and mark this. I'll usually use the magnetic one first and go around, and then for anything to fix, it automatically switches you to the manual one here where the margin's kind of fallen off the tooth. We'll just pull that back where it needs to go. Good, and then we'll switch to number 30, magnetic tool, and a lasso around wherever it'll let you. And then if you wanted to go in with the manual and clean up any of the margins to where it should be. Okay, margins are marked, and then we'll go to set insertion axis. This is a really important tab not to click the forward button on when you're on draw margin. If you're on draw margin and you click forward, it'll skip sometimes and go straight to your design. And one of the big reasons that the bridge won't seat is because this tab was not set correctly. Even just looking at the proposal it has for this, you can see that what I'm looking at is the margin and how the bridge is going to draw with the adjacent teeth. So this one looks like it would seat, but this one would have a hard time going on because of how close it is. So on this tab, it's a bird's eye view, and you're trying to set it where the bridge will draw or seat. I'm going to move this over just a little bit, and then you have to click OK to save the new spot. It's locked into that now. You can, after you lock it in, see if there was another position you like better, and if you don't, you can hit cancel. It'll take you back to what it should be. Okay, after that, then we can push forward. It's going to take us to the proposal. So now we're in the design phase of it. And this is where it's easy to get lost because there's a lot to do. There's 3 teeth that we need to design and get to fit correctly. And it's easy to bounce around between different teeth. And sometimes, one step will affect the last step that you just did. And so instead of that, we're just going to focus on one tooth at a time. Get this one how we want it, and get this one how we want it, and then finish with this one. It'll make things much easier. So starting with tooth number 28, the first thing that I'm always looking at, and the tool that I'm always using, is the shape tool, and I go to the anatomical one first. I'm looking at 2 things. One, the fissure height, so how much thickness do I have for the strength of this crown, and then the other thing that I'm looking at is the heights of the marginal ridges. With this tool, you can kind of tackle both of those at the same time by grabbing or hovering over the whole tooth. You can see the whole tooth is selected, and you can move it up. Up will gain you some fissure height and also kind of show you where the marginal ridges can land. You're going to ignore any of the colors here, even if the color by doing that turns out to be red. We're just going to leave that for now. So if you moved it up and that was red, just ignore that for right now. We'll do that last. So we're on this tooth. We have pretty good thickness for what's there. If you moved it up and the marginal ridges were where you wanted, but you still needed some more thickness, sometimes I'll go to the add tool and follow along some of the anatomy here, especially where the fissures are, and see if I can't get a little more strength out of it. You see I haven't really changed much of the tooth, but we did get a little bit more thickness out of it. So that step is done, and then I'll move to going to the shape tool again, but on the circular side. The circular tool is good for reshaping or dragging parts of the tooth. Sometimes on your proposal, you'll see some light blue that looks like this. The light blue is telling you that it's thin in that area, and so if you have some of that, you can take the circular tool and drag and pull it out without adding a funny shape of something. So just checking around both sides here, buccal and lingual. This one doesn't really have anything there. Maybe an odd shape for what this is here, and we can move this in a little bit, and we'll smooth this out just later. Sometimes I'll also look at the lingual cusps and make sure they're in a good spot. I'm okay with what these ones look like. Then what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the form tool and look at smooth, and we're going to look underneath the model, and we're looking at the contact area for this. This one's in green, and that's the color that I want it to be. If there wasn't a contact, or if the contact was red, then you would use the smooth tool to smooth through the model underneath here to get to a shape that you're happy with. If there's not a contact, you can use your circular tool to drag and pull from the side to get something there that you can smooth. Smoothing through the model is beneficial because it only smooths what pokes through, or the part of the tooth that comes through there, and it won't smooth everything else around the area. Sometimes you might want to smooth that, like this contact is kind of big for what the tooth is, and so you may want to use the smooth tool to not go right in the middle of it, but maybe go underneath and scoot it up a little bit. This will leave area where the floss can still snap, but then has a place to fall into. And at the same time, while we've got this on, I'm going to come over here where the shape of things just are a little sharp, and use the smooth tool to get that a little bit more round. I'm not going to worry about kind of this red area here, other than if you look at what the model looks like, you might say, hey, this tooth is coming far into the other area here. So if you wanted to get that to look better quickly, I would come back to the anatomical tool and then just highlight that side of it, and then you can drag inward, and then those kind of share the space a little bit better. But I'm not worried about the color that's in between these for right now, and I'm not going to do anything with it. The last step for this tooth would be coming down to this button right here. If this button is not available or not showing on your screen, all you have to do is click this button here. This will just show all the available tools for you. Sometimes it's hidden. If you picked the articulation tab on the first screen for administration when we started, you'll have this button here, which is FGP, and you can click that. It's going to set your occlusion and take into account the excursive movements. All right, so this tooth is done for now, and then we're going to move on to the pontic. The pontic's a little bit different because, well, there's no fissure height because there's no tooth that's prepped underneath it, but you still kind of want to look at marginal ridges, and I think this one's pretty good. This one we're going to pull the tooth in just a little bit, so I'm not going to pull that one up, but if you wanted to set that, you would go back to your shape tool, anatomical. So I'm happy with where this is. I'm going to go to the circular tool and maybe just lower some of these lingual cusps, maybe just this one. And then I'm going to go to the anatomical tool to kind of do the same thing we did with the other one, where this tooth looks like it's really coming into this space, and just get a shape that I think would be better for where the premolar should be. The hard part about the Pontic is getting a shape underneath the gum tissue that you're going to be happy with. And well, we've kind of started with a model that has something that's smooth, but you can see that it's not touching very well there, so this would be a big food trap. I hit undo on this. Let me get this back to where it was. I hit undo because I had dragged it kind of funny on the other side there. So just getting back to where we were. Okay, and then under the tools, there's a tool for adjusting the base of the Pontic. If you click on this, it's going to give you some different options. I kind of like the drag tool because you can just kind of pick here and pull more to the buccal if you need to, or get that to extend into the extraction site more if you need to. There's also an edit tool. This lets you kind of just redraw the margin based on where you're at. So use those to get a shape that you like. Sometimes if you're trying to do a modified ridge lap, it's easier in this phase right here just to remove some of that lingual portion and have the base of where the Pontic starts here go that way. For this one, I'm okay with this going over to this side, more like an ovate shape with just a little bit of ridge lap. I might drag this over just a little bit too to get the connectors a little closer to the other teeth. All right, and then we'll go back to our form tools. So I kind of like the shape of what's there, but we need to address where it's touching. And so we'll take the lower jaw off, and from underneath here, we'll use the add tool. And I'm gonna add until we get some red. For the colors here, red is kind of red, so anything past red is still just red. It's hard to tell how much you've added, but for the Pontic, I don't want it to be a gap underneath, and tissue compresses, so I want it to be touching where the gum tissue is. Sometimes you have to check this as you're seating the bridge to make sure that it's not holding it up from seating down all the way, but I would rather make a little adjustment in the mouth than have it not touching and have to redo the bridge. So we've got a good shape to start with there, and you can smooth from the underside here too. Usually I'm smoothing from the lingual because I do want a little bit of a ridge lap so that it's more cleansable. All right, and then the Pontic is done. So we're moving on to tooth number 30 for the last part here, and kind of just going back to the same tools. And this is what makes it easy, is you're just doing the same thing that you would do for a single tooth, but just 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go to anatomical, and on this one we can see we have 0.76. I think there's more room to get some strength out of that, especially on a bridge. And then the marginal ridges don't really match up where we want them to either. So we're hovering over the whole tooth and then pulling it up. And now we've got good thickness for the strength of it, and the marginal ridges are in a good spot. You can kind of look at the occlusion too on this one. It's not great because the model's not articulated very well. But sometimes, especially if you're looking in the mouth and you know kind of where the cusps are going to be and where you want them to hit, you can still go through and use the add tool and try and find, well, where is the contact at? Because if you don't have a contact to start with, then the FGP tool isn't going to do anything with it. So sometimes I'll just add this. You can kind of play with that. It might affect some of your thickness here, and so you're kind of just watching that. But we're happy with the fissure height and where the marginal ridges are. So I'm going to go to the circular tool, and there's no minimal thickness spots on this one. If there are, fix it at this point. And looking at the cusps here, they look pretty good. I might just lower them just a hair. One thing that I might want to change is right here in this embrasure, we can use this tool to just pull this in a little bit and make that less of a food trap. As you do that, you know, it creates the red spot that's here, but that's a good thing because then we can smooth it from where it is. So let's go to that next. Going to the form tools and using smooth. From underneath here, you can smooth this down to the color that you want. I like green. I find that that will seat without me having to make any adjustments. You can also take the lower jaw off if you want to look at that and change some of it, but I'm happy with that. And then the last thing that we're going to do is go to the FGP tool and adjust the occlusion for that. Good, I'm okay with that. On this tooth here, we don't have a ton of occlusion for what's there, because when we use that tool, it removes some of the spots that were there. But what that's telling you is, well, maybe when they bite up and down, straight up and down, it wouldn't hit heavy, but it would hit heavy if you use the articulation. So I will usually follow what that does, and I have good success with things fitting okay and not doing a lot of adjustments in the mouth. So I would leave this one, I would leave this one. You might come through and remove some of this just a little bit, maybe lighten where these are, considering that you had to lighten some of it for what's there. I kind of like the one that was in there, so I might add this one just a hair. So we've got the spot that's here, and maybe lighten this back one. Okay, so at this point we've got all three of these designed to a good spot. What we have not done is we have not done anything for how they connect to each other. And we wait till the end to do this because it's easier. So design is done, and then we're gonna go back to the administration tab. And then where we selected for these to be intersection, we're gonna switch them to anatomic on both of them. Hit OK. And then go straight back to our design tab. It will keep all of the design stuff that we already did, but now we have connectors here, and you'll see that the connectors have green check marks. Sometimes they still won't, and I'll show you how to deal with that. But we have something that is a piece of the bridge. So 30 is a piece, and then the connector is a selectable piece that you can adjust, and 29, and then the connector for those ones is also a piece. With these pieces here, we have some tools to adjust them. I don't like the connector lines one. I don't think it works very well, but the move one does work very well. And so you can select, in this case, let's do 28 to 29's connector, and you can either do a position move or a scale move. So you can grab and you can decide where that starts. And then you can also scale it. When you hit scale, it turns off the scale all. So it kind of breaks it up into 3 individual pieces, and that makes it really hard to work with. So I would just click scale all, and this lets you click and make it bigger. So if your connector is not wide enough and it needs to be stronger, you'll do that. If it's too small, it'll show you in the warning here that that's not thick enough. So sometimes the proposal will look like this, and you'll want to take this and grab it until it changes to the green and gives you the strength that you need. You can do that for this one. You can also do that for this one. Position it a little bit different. Good. And then we'll go back to this to get out of that. And we've got everything that we need here for making the bridge, so we'll move towards manufacture. And then all you're really looking at here is you're making sure that the bridge fits inside the block. If you're getting red somewhere on it, you can try moving the sprue, but there's not a lot of movements you can do as the bridge just fits kind of where that's at. If it does fit, mill it, and if it doesn't fit, then it's likely too long of a bridge or something that you need to send to the lab. But this is how you design a posterior bridge using the CEREC.